The microphone had barely reached my hand when my new husband announced he was giving every dollar he owned to his mother, and 300 guests wept and cheered like he was a saint. I smiled, took that same microphone, and ended my own wedding in one sentence before the applause even finished dying down. My name is Emily Carter. The man standing beside me in a rented tuxedo was Ryan Foster, 30 years old, a man I had loved for 5 years. Before the toast even began, Ryan grabbed the microphone from the stunned MC and announced that he was transferring both of his premarital condos, his entire stock portfolio, and every savings account he owned directly to his mother, Diane, as a gift for raising him alone. He added that starting next month he would also send her $6,000 every single month for the rest of her life. The room exploded into applause. Relatives stood up shouting that he was the most devoted son they had ever seen, while Diane sobbed into a tissue at the head table, playing the grieving, grateful mother to absolute perfection. I stood frozen in my white dress, my bouquet trembling in my hands, watching my entire future quietly get handed away to a woman I barely trusted, in front of every person who mattered to us. Then Ryan turned to me, held out the microphone, and asked me to confirm publicly that I supported his decision completely. I took the microphone with a smile that was not joy, but pure disbelief at the absurdity unfolding around me. I looked directly at Ryan and announced, calmly and clearly, that the wedding was canceled and that we were finished. 3 seconds of dead silence gave way to total chaos, gasps, shouting, and Diane charging toward me screaming that I had no right to humiliate her devoted son. I reminded the room that Ryan was 30 years old, not 3, and that giving away every asset we needed to build a life together was not love. It was madness. My best friend Jenna ran onto the stage and revealed something Ryan had conveniently forgotten to mention, that my parents had paid $90,000 toward the down payment on the condo he was now casually signing over to his mother. The crowd turned on him instantly, realizing half of what he was giving away technically belonged to my family. I pulled off my veil, pressed the engagement ring back into his shaking hand, and told the MC to announce the wedding was canceled, though the dinner could continue as my treat, since every gift would be returned in full. That evening, my parents sat quietly devastated while I calmly explained the math. $6,000 to his mother, the mortgage, and groceries would have left us with almost nothing, forever paying off my parents' debt while raising children on scraps. My mother agreed instantly that we needed every cent of that $90,000 back. And by the next morning, I was sitting across from attorney Grant Miller, who confirmed the down payment counted as a conditional gift, tied to a marriage that never happened, giving me full legal grounds to reclaim it. Ryan called nonstop, cycling between anger and desperate apologies, insisting he could reverse everything if I would just talk to him at home instead of destroying him publicly. I sent one final text demanding the $90,000 within a week or we would meet in court, then blocked his number completely. 2 days later, Diane herself showed up at my parents' front door, sneering at our modest house before throwing a cashier's check onto our coffee table, calling it the price of finally seeing my true face. I refused to touch it, telling her the debt was between her son and me, not her, furious at being refused. Diane retaliated the only way she knew how, posting a long, tearful accusation online branding me a gold-digging fraud who had extorted money from her grieving family. Within hours, her lie had hundreds of shares. I responded the only way that mattered, publishing every piece of evidence I had, bank transfers, wedding footage, and screenshots of her own defamatory post, alongside a public statement that shifted the narrative completely. Public opinion flipped overnight, and Ryan, humiliated at his own company after I mistakenly sent legal correspondence to his office, was suspended from his director position within days. Facing backlash at my own workplace over the growing scandal, I resigned before anyone could push me out, walking straight into 2 strong job interviews where, surprisingly, my calm handling of the entire mess impressed both interviewers enough to offer me a better position with a 30% raise. Ryan finally wired the $90,000, followed by a public apology alongside his mother, and I quietly deleted my posts, believing the nightmare was finally behind me. It was not. A month later, Jenna called with impossible news. Ryan was getting married again, to a woman named Melissa Hayes he had known less than a month, and she was already 3 months pregnant. I felt strangely calm about it until a package arrived at my new apartment with no return name, containing a flash drive and a note from Ryan begging me to listen before judging him. The recording inside revealed his mother's own voice, coldly instructing Melissa on exactly how to fake a pregnancy and trap Ryan into marriage, admitting she had engineered the entire wedding day meltdown from the very beginning to get rid of me. The betrayal had never simply been Ryan's stupidity. It had been his mother's calculated plan from the start, and he had gone along with it because obedience was easier than standing up to her. Weeks later, Melissa herself reached out, meeting me in a quiet cafe to confess everything face to face, admitting the pregnancy was entirely fake and that Diane had bribed her $25,000 to trap her own son into a marriage neither of them actually wanted. She warned me that Diane, humiliated and furious, was now plotting some kind of public revenge against me. Days later, Diane showed up outside my new office with a crowd, a megaphone and hired camera operators, screaming to strangers on the sidewalk that I was a predator who had destroyed her son's career and life. I walked outside calmly, dismantled every accusation with documented facts, then played the recording of her own voice orchestrating the fake pregnancy scheme directly in front of the crowd and the cameras. The onlookers gasped in real time as Melissa herself stepped forward and confirmed every word, and police sirens arrived just as Diane collapsed onto the pavement in humiliated defeat. She was arrested for harassment and disorderly conduct, though a sudden health scare got her released early. And that same night, she and Ryan showed up desperate and pleading at my friend's apartment, faking a medical collapse to force their way inside. I called the police again, refused to be manipulated by her theatrics, and watched them both leave in an ambulance, while I finally decided enough was enough, changing my number, my address, and cutting every remaining thread connecting me to that family forever. 6 months later, thriving in my new position and my completely rebuilt life, I ran into Ryan by chance outside a coffee shop, thinner, exhausted, and finally honest for the first time in years. He thanked me quietly for showing him exactly how dangerous his mother's control over him had truly been, wished me happiness, and walked away without asking for anything in return. That same week, at a dinner thrown by Jenna's new in-laws, I ran into Alex Turner, an old college boyfriend I had not seen in years. Recently divorced and back in the city for work, Alex was nothing like Ryan. He never tried to control a single decision I made, showed up in the pouring rain just to walk me to my car with an umbrella, and openly promised that if we ever married, our money would remain entirely our own. A year later, I walked down a different aisle in a different city, marrying a man who respected me as an equal partner instead of a supporting character in someone else's story, surrounded by family who finally felt like they were celebrating me instead of managing a performance. As we said goodbye to our guests that night, Ryan appeared quietly at the edge of the crowd, older, worn down, and finally at peace, offering a small gift I chose not to accept before he walked away for the very last time. Months later, settled into a new life together overseas, my phone buzzed with a final bank transfer notification and a short message from an unknown number, simply reading that the debt was fully repaid and wishing me happiness. I deleted the message, took my husband's hand, and stepped outside into the sunlight of a life I had finally built entirely on my own terms. If this story kept you hooked until the very last word, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because here on The Revenge Tales, we bring you real stories of betrayal, justice,